Welcome to the Up in the Nosebleeds podcast with your hosts, Max Ralph and Zach Swain. Here you'll get a bird's eye view of your favorite sports, just like you get from a nosebleed seat. Hello and welcome back to the Up in the Nosebleeds podcast. We are your hosts, Max Ralph and Zach Swain, and this is our third episode here already. Last week we didn't pick up an episode. Zach was out of town and I had some personal stuff going on, but we got the one out last week or from 2 weeks ago, a little bit late, but here we are. Should be on time this week. There's a lot of stuff to talk about from this weekend, as there always is. I mean, we talk about every single sport, so there's always going to be. But obviously, biggest storyline is going to be March Madness last night. I mean, what a game. That was incredible and an instant classic for sure, because the dominance was just kind of shocking. And then I think we're going to do a deep dive into the MLB opening weekend, and then just touch on a few of the offseason moves that have happened in the NFL lately, the past couple of days, that are some big names moving and flying around and everything. And so let's talk about March Madness and the men's championship last night. That was crazy. I mean, I know you were riding Gonzaga hard all the way, but man, I did not think Baylor was – I didn't think they had that in them.
Yeah, to me, I feel like Gonzaga, it's a one game, so anyone can win, obviously. Gonzaga just couldn't make their shots. Like, they shot 29% from three while Baylor shot 43.
Yeah.
And they only shot 71 from the line, and Baylor was 88%, and they shot 16 of 18. So
yeah,
that's going to be hard to beat.
I said it when we were previewing the bracket. If you shoot the three well and you make your free throws, you win games in the tournament. And look what happened.
Yeah, they were breaking from three, but they shot really well, like in general from the field, shooting 51%. So if they were able to hit, a couple more of those threes like they normally do, like Kispert was very off. He's a great 3-point shooter. So who knows? More than likely they would have won the game, but this was definitely one of their worst shooting performances of the year.
And honestly, I mean, as much as it sucks that they had it on the championship night, it's so hard to go undefeated in college basketball. I mean, I don't care if you're playing in the Missouri Valley Conference. I don't care if you're playing in as a D1 team against Division II teams. I mean, any given night, sometimes the ball just doesn't go in. But I was seriously impressed by what Baylor did last night. I mean, I knew they were a good team. I mean, Jared Butler won an award candidate, and I knew they were a good team, but I just didn't know they were that good. And I mean, maybe it all just came together. Maybe I had an off night and Baylor just had a great night, but they were out rotating them on defense. On offense, they had Gonzaga on their heels the whole night. I mean, every time I looked, Gonzaga was out rotated on defense. I mean, they were just on their heels the whole night. And like you said, Baylor's shooting was just lights out. And when you do that, you can beat anybody. And so I don't think Gonzaga has too much to be ashamed about for last night. Baylor came out and played their best basketball of the year and put on one of the best performances that I've seen in a long time in general. And then the final four games were great too. We shed a little bit of light on those. UCLA versus Gonzaga. I mean, that had real Villanova UNC vibes from 2016, but that championship game was impressive to me. So opening next year, way too early to talk about it, right? But Gonzaga is out as the betting favorite to take next year's title. I mean, how many times has the betting favorite actually won coming out after the previous tournament ended? I have no idea, but my guess is very few. How much stock are you putting in Gonzaga next year?
I think they'll be a 1 or 2 seed again. They got a really good basketball program. They're always up there every year. I'll be really interested to see what North Carolina does without Roy Williams. That'll be interesting to see. But I think Duke and Kentucky will be looking to redeem themselves. Yep. So I'll be very interested.
I think there's some really good storylines next year, and it's way too early to pick a national champion. And I wouldn't put too much stock in Gonzaga right away because they're gonna have to reload their roster. They're losing Suggs, and I think Kispert's a senior. Timmy might come back, but I'm not sure about that. But Mark Few has done as good a job as anybody at Gonzaga. So I'm really interested to see how. Go ahead.
There is one team I will not be putting any stock in whatsoever, and they've been very good these past couple years. But that is Loyola Chicago.
Oh yeah, Porter Moser heading over to Boomer Sooner. Yeah, that's big news. I mean, Loyola was they put on an impressive run into the tournament this year, and obviously you can't forget the 2018 Final Four run. I mean, Porter Moser's clearly built a program out of a mid-major, and so with Lon Kruger leaving Oklahoma, it's interesting to see how that's going to go. I think next year, I mean, college basketball always has great stories, but next year you've got potentially the return to dominance of Duke and Kentucky, a new coach at Oklahoma, which Oklahoma is not necessarily one of the blue bloods, but they've had really solid teams in the years. I mean, you look at Blake Griffin, Trae Young, those kinds of guys, but yeah, I think there's a lot next year. And of course, Penn State, Micah Shrewsbury making a run. Yeah. I don't know about that one, but so yeah, I think this was a phenomenal college basketball season and one of the best tournaments we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I also want to touch back to the Baylor Gonzaga game real quick. Davion Mitchell and Jalen Suggs really showed why their draft stock for the NBA is, skyrocketing.
Suggs had a great performance despite the loss.
Yep, scored 22 points. Mitchell was projected like a late first rounder. Now he's like top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Because of his all around game. He had a 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, along with 15 points. So he really does remind you of Donovan Mitchell. They literally look alike.
Ironically.
Their names. Yes.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how those two do in the NBA because I do not see either of them coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that dominant performance by Baylor is a great way to put a bow on top of the season. I mean, it was just I don't think we could have asked for much more, and coming out of a year marred by COVID and postponements and everything, I really think that was just great. So let's move on and jump into the other big news of the weekend is MLB opening day. This is my favorite time of the year personally. I can't get enough of the MLB, and man, this weekend was a little bit jarring for a lot of teams. I mean, let's talk about the fact that the Baltimore Orioles are winning the AL East right now at 3-1, while the Boston Red Sox are 1-3. I mean, nobody thought the Red Sox were going to be, like top 5 team this year, but they got smacked in opening weekend. And then the Phillies, I mean, Phillies have had their bullpen struggles in the past, and last year was no different. But so far this year, they've pitched, I forget exactly what it was. They've pitched like 17 innings or something and only given up 1 earned run. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, they played the Atlanta Braves too, which I'd say a lot of people had the Braves picked to win the NL East. So what have you seen as some of the biggest takeaways and surprises from the MLB's opening weekend here?
Yeah, I really think the Phillies are going to be good. They really upgraded that bullpen with, big name guys like Archie Bradley, who I think is going to be big help for them. Zach Wheeler is really showing his improvement, even at the plate. I don't know if that will continue, but
that was put him in the home run derby, dude. I don't care if he hits singles every time. He's got 2 RBIs on the season. That's more than half of the Cubs roster. So
yeah, him and Ohtani battling for that one.
Oh, we'll get to Ohtani. That was one of the. You know what? I'm gonna cut you off. And Ohtani hit the hardest hit ball of the weekend and threw the fastest pitch. I mean, what do you say about that?
I say he is the most talented baseball player ever. I'm not saying he's the best. I'm just saying off of pure talent, raw skills, he is the best I've ever seen.
Even more than Mike Trout?
More than Mike Trout. Mike Trout is the best player I've ever seen. Ohtani I'm not saying like he's, you know what I'm saying? It's like off of pure skill.
I get it.
This
I get
dude
it.
is throwing 100 miles and he is jacking the ball 500 feet.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
He's
I
batting
watched,
in the 2-hole as a pitcher.
I know. I watched the game when he hit the home run, and I'm glad he's okay from the injury, because that's a play that, while there's nothing else that's who was it? Abreu could have done on that slide. I mean, he did the right thing, but I'm glad Ohtani's okay. And by the way, the Angels really tried to give that game away, but
no, Iglesias, this dude on the Reds, absolute buns. I'm so glad that guy is out of here. I have no idea how he was top ranked for relievers this year. This dude is terrible. I was laughing watching the game. He had a ground ball hit to him. He overthrows the first
I saw it.
baseman.
He airmailed Anthony Rendon. It was bad. But guess
and
what?
at third base, yeah.
Jared Walsh decided to call game. So, anyways, go back to what you were saying. Phillies look great. Yeah, they are awesome. Yeah, go Phillies.
Double Zach starting pitcher role there. They got Aaron Nola, who is a beast year in and year out. I forget what the exact stat was, but last year was like teams with the most losses after leading at some point.
It was the Phillies and then the Cubs or whatever.
Yeah, and
it's terrible.
They definitely would have made the playoffs last year, but that bullpen was like, I could have had just as good as an ERA. They were terrible.
Yeah, I can chuck meatballs at 65 miles an hour and might get the same amount of home runs hit off of me.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a really good team this year.
And then obviously our biased division and one to look at, but the NL Central in, I'd say, the past 5 years has been undoubtedly top 1 or 2 division in baseball. And this year, it's not really looking like that's the case. But the Reds and the Cubs are sitting at the top, and the Reds took 2 or 3 away from the Cardinals. That was a big storyline this weekend, because Arenado, Goldschmidt, everybody thought the Cardinals were coming out of that division easily. So what do you make of the series this weekend from your hometown Reds?
Oh, I loved it, and I think we should have taken the first game, but Castillo decided to throw his changeup down the middle basically every single time, and it got whacked. Goldschmidt was whacking us. So that was one of the worst starts I've ever seen Castillo have. Hopefully that's not a trend, but because with
I don't think it is. Castillo's been pretty solid.
Yeah, with pitchers sometimes, though, after only one bad game, they're just – but besides that, Nick Castellanos, I will have to say, is my favorite player on the team right now.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that.
He is the leader on this team. We'll talk about that more later. But another guy I was really high on. I wasn't 100% sure if he'd make the roster, but Jonathan India is a name you will want to know if you don't know it now.
Yeah.
I drafted him in fantasy baseball this year before even knowing if he made the roster. But obviously he's showing why he did. He's had a hit in every single game. He's making great plays at second. And with that, they had to move Suarez at shortstop. He's having some of his problems there, but as expected, he hasn't played there since he was in Detroit. But that should be fixed up. Yeah, I'm really excited for the season.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give a little bit of love to my Cubs. They've really impressed me as well to start this season. I mean, losing the opening day to the Pirates was a little bit worrying, I'll say. But Kyle Hendricks was off, and it's okay. He's had bad opening day starts in the past and lockdown, and he should be getting Cy Young votes this year. He usually does, and I expect nothing less from the professor. But what's really impressed me has been the resurgence so far early on in the season from the Cubs core with Bryant and Baez and Contreras. They've all really been, I mean, the three of them all struggled really badly the past 2 years. And so far early on in this one, they've looked a lot better. And Baez coming in with a few big hits. He took a pitch off the knee last night that looked painful, but he stayed in the game. And just a good sign to see the old guys, the old core sticking together. And I'm playing for extensions, really. I mean, Baez came out and was obviously he's in a contract year, and he was talking about how the Francisco Lindor contract really opens the door for a lot of other shortstops. And You can see he's out there. He loves Chicago. He loves the game of baseball. He wants an extension there. But the bigger news is Anthony Rizzo. He should have been extended a long time ago, but wait until the end of the season to get that one done. So there's a lot of interesting.
You think it will get done?
I think it will. Imagine the Cubs without Anthony Rizzo. You can't do it. And so, I mean, it might take a lot of struggling, but Anthony Rizzo will get his money one way or another. And I think it'll get done. I'm a little bit worried about, I'm not sure if they'll be able to keep all three of them. And honestly, I've been as low as anybody on Chris Bryant, but seeing him get hits this weekend and put a couple of good games together early on in the season is really encouraging. And honestly, it might just raise his trade stock coming into the deadline so that they can hold on to Baez and Rizzo. But if the Cubs are still holding on to first place in the Central by then, he might still be on the team. It's interesting. I think, even though I'm biased, I think there's a lot of really good storylines coming out of Chicago this year. So we'll go back to Cincinnati and your Reds, and we mentioned it earlier. Nick Castellanos, you wanna detail the situation?
All right, yeah. All right, so this is a game before he hits a meatball, and he, as most people do nowadays, celebrated. He did a little hippity hoppity, flipped his bat, turned to our bench, and was like yelling into there. Didn't look at the pitcher or anything. So he made it known that he just got one off this dude. So then the day goes by. He comes up to hit again, and Molina positions himself inside. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but I'm pretty sure it was, if I'm being honest, because it's Reds Cardinals, big rivalry, and he drills.
It's anybody against the Cardinals. Come on.
Yes, he just, I think it was like 94 miles per hour, right at the top of the rib cage, like right here. And Nick wasn't having that. He asked Molina if it was intentional. Obviously, he said no.
Oh yeah, Yachty's gonna tell him it was intentional, right in front of the umpire. Yeah,
exactly. So Nick goes up, he grabs the ball, and he goes, "Do you want this back?" And obviously, the dude said no, and he throws it back and takes his walk to first base. And this is with 2 outs, by the way. So obviously, it's 2 outs. If you're going to drill a guy, drill him now, because no better time with 2 outs. Drill him. Nobody on. And actually, this would go very wrong for the Cardinals, because he would end up scoring a ton
all the way around.
Yep. So eventually, Castellanos will make the third base. Mike Moustakas, who's a lefty, is up to bat. Dude throws a pitch. It goes over the Molina's glove. And this is where Nick is like, all right, he hit me. I am definitely scoring here. So he runs. He slides in. The pitcher's sliding at the same time, trying to tag him. He's safe. He gets up, and he just flexes on him and yells, "Let's go." And then Molina wasn't having that, so he ran after him, and the rest is on ESPN.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, that
there's a picture here. I've got it. Here's a picture that I'm gonna share my screen.
It is going to be a poster I will be getting if it becomes available.
Check out this picture right here. If you can see, Castellanos is over talking to his teammates and trying to diffuse the situation. Maybe not. It looks like Moustakas is, but Yachty's coming around and grabbing him on the neck and pulling him back. So keep this picture in mind when you learn that Yachty or Molina got nothing and Nick Castellanos got a 2-game suspension. So Castellanos is suspended for 2 games.
And fined.
And fined. Molina gets nothing. Now, if you remember back to last week when we talked about Trevor Bauer and his personal branding issue and how the MLB warned him about wearing a shirt with his brand on it, these situations go hand in hand. I mean, Castellanos makes a big play, and of course he's excited about it. He just got pegged. I mean, come on. The guy's going to get excited. He's playing against the division favorites. Reds are the underdogs. It's opening weekend. Everybody's fired up. You got fans in the stand for the first time in a year. I mean, the emotions are high. And so Castellanos gets up, does a little flex, does a little yell. And I mean, I'm in the camp that usually you shouldn't be yelling and while you're staring at the pitcher's face, especially when he's on his knees trying to make a play on you. But I don't blame him. And emotions are high. I mean, in hindsight, if you get up and yell to your bench, it's one thing. But standing over the guy, I don't know. I'm old school. I don't love it. But regardless, emotions are high. And I saw this tweet the other day. Flexing on people is something that happens in the NBA twice a game. And you go and do it in the MLB, you get a 2-game suspension. So if you turn around and look at it from the angle we looked at with Trevor Bauer last week, I mean, this situation is a mess.
Yeah, it's he appealed it, obviously. I doubt it will be accepted. I'm sure he'll still be suspended 2 games, but the Yachty was the one that caused the benches to clear. I mean, Nick was already heading back to the dugout, and next thing you know, Moose sees Yachty running towards Nick, and chaos broke out after that.
Yeah, but here's just another situation where, you know, the MLB's got a player who's making a play at, you know, being the face of a team, being the face of an organization, being the face of some excitement for a lot of young kids to look at. It's the same thing with Fernando Tatis hitting the home run on a 3-0 count last year. I mean, these guys are making these plays and they're riling up fans. There's a lot of emotion in these games, and the MLB just keeps tearing it back and keeps holding it back further and further. And just like we said last week, it's time for the MLB to lean into these players and just let a little bit more personality fly on the field. Because I mean, granted, most of our friends are obviously high school, college age. They're the ones I saw on social media, but I saw tons of people get excited over Nick Castellanos' flex at the plate. I mean, that's how you get people to watch baseball who don't watch baseball. But yet the MLB is still discouraging that kind of action. Now, like I said, I don't necessarily encourage like standing over the guy, but like Tatis grand slam, Tim Anderson bat flip from 2 years ago that sent everybody into a ruckus. These things, they bring emotion and they bring personality to the sport, and that's how you get more fans to watch. And MLB just keeps pushing it back. I mean, I don't understand it.
Yeah, 2-game suspension or not, it was number 1 trending on Twitter. It was all over ESPN, and that was probably the most talked about subject of the day, which usually that would be something going on like Luca doing a crossover or something. But this time exactly. It was Castellanos doing a something that isn't harmful, didn't throw any punches, literally just flexed on a dude, walked to the dugout, and that was it. And he got suspended 2 games.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single punch thrown in that.
I mean, Bauer was like one of the first ones to take to Twitter and say something about it. I mean,
he even said he threw up a poll on it was either Instagram or Twitter. He was like, "Do you think the MLB should be like the NHL and allow players to like get into it a little bit?" And obviously, I put yes because
I don't know if
it'd be fun to watch, but
I don't know if I'd go that far. But I think suspending the guy for that is just it's a bad move for the MLB as an organization, and it's just another reason why their viewership is struggling. I mean, if you see all the attention it's getting on social media, it's like top trending on Twitter. Like, if you see that people are like learning, oh, he's suspended, like there's gonna be less of that. Well, I came here to see that, and now they're taking it away, so I don't care. I wanted to see that, but all of a sudden, this is something that happens in the MLB every day. Oh, this is just like the NBA. I want to watch more of this. I mean, that's just how it goes. And so it's time for the MLB to lean into it. Like I said last week, and I'll continue to say it all season long as we have another instance of that. Oh, and I know one topic you wanted to bring up that we didn't. Fernando Tatis. Go ahead.
Yeah. So not only was I worried about his injuries or his injury history, which is why I didn't pick him in fantasy baseball, by the way. He's not the best defender or like infielder, and that's showing. He already has more errors than hits this year. I believe he has 5 errors and only 4 hits. And not only that,
5 errors in one weekend.
Yes, that is awful.
Yeah,
especially from your superstar,
from the face of the MLB. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
And not only that, he could be missed. I looked into this injury. It's called a shoulder something. It could require surgery. They haven't really said the extent of it, but the worst possibility is surgery. I was looking into that. And all he did was just swing his bat. Yep. And he did, I don't know, but unfortunately for the Padres and Tatis, he is probably missing a couple weeks at least.
Yeah, and Blake Snell looked pretty good in his debut with the Padres, but Yu Darvish not so much, and they're still. I mean, it's only 5 games into the year, but they're a game behind the Dodgers, and they've still got work to do in that division. So with Tatis going down, that's another big storyline. All right, that's enough baseball.
Wait, I got one more thing.
I'm sorry.
We cannot go without mentioning this. I believe this is how you say his first name, not 100%.
Are you talking about Mercedes?
Yermin Mercedes.
Yeah, Yermin Mercedes.
I'd never heard of this dude in my life. 28-year-old. He's a catcher. He goes 5 of 5.
8 of 8.
In his first game, 5 of 5.
Okay, yeah.
And he went 8 of 8 eventually. This dude was just smacking the ball. I have MLB League Pass or whatever, so I was watching their games, and every time this dude was up, I was like, "This is a bad man."
He got blanked by the Twins though, so I kind of made him look silly against who was pitching? Like was it Barrios? I'm not sure. But anyways, we'll have plenty of baseball on here each week because baseball season is just getting into full swing. One more thing we want to hit before we go. Like we said, the big NFL storylines from this weekend. Sam Darnold traded to the Carolina Panthers. We knew this was coming for a while, but it's finally done. The deal's done. So that means the Jets are 100% taking a quarterback in number 2. I mean, I don't even think it's a question. But who won that trade?
To me, I think they both won the trade. To me, Sam Darnold was done with New York. He was done with that media. He was just done with the franchise. The Jets were going to have to pay him a lot of money eventually because his rookie contract's coming to an end. The Jets aren't anywhere near of a winning roster yet, so they're not looking forward to paying Darnold a lot of money. So they'd like to go with a guy as in Zach Wilson, who will. I don't see them picking anyone else besides him. But anyway, they'll have him on a rookie contract for like 4 years or whatever. Yeah, and they have a lot of picks they can use, so they can trade some of those for guys. They can draft a good team around Wilson. But I can also see the Panthers on the other end. They didn't give up too much for Darnold.
They gave up a 6th rounder this year, a 2nd rounder, and a 4th rounder in 2022. So
now here's where I look at this. That's not that much. Now I'm going to go to you, Max. The Bears messed up. How are you not willing to give up that and for Sam Darnold instead of Andy Dalton?
I mean, I don't know. If I could tell you what Ryan Pace was thinking, I'd have stopped rooting for the Bears 5 years ago.
I think if Sam Darnold becomes very good, which I think
Joe Brady and Matt Rule is a great fit for Darnold. I mean, it's a fresh face, it's a fresh system in terms of both being new to the Panthers for just a year, but also, I mean, Joe Brady and Matt Rule are bringing things to the NFL that are maybe not going to revolutionize the game, but they're bringing a different perspective. They're both young. They've both been in college for a long time. So I really think this could be a good marriage for Darnold. But the interesting thing is that Teddy Bridgewater is now just
he'll be traded more than likely.
Reports came out today, I believe, that the Panthers are listening to calls, and I'm not sure where do you think the best landing spots are? I mean, of course, Bears come to mind, but they've got Andy Dalton, and interestingly enough, it seems like he's their guy. So I don't expect much more movement from the Bears unless it's Deshaun Watson, but that's a whole nother story that we did discuss earlier. But I mean, Teddy Bridgewater could land in San Francisco. I mean, I think Jimmy G's just as good as him. I think Cam Newton has a resurgence in New England if they get a few more offensive assets. I think this is a big loss for Teddy Bridgewater, but I think it's a big win for the Jets and the Panthers overall.
Here's my view. Teddy Bridgewater, unfortunately, is in the time of a very good draft class of quarterbacks. So most of those teams that need quarterbacks, they've either already got them, like the Bears, or they're going to draft them. So Teddy Bridgewater, I see him doing sort of a Jameis Winston thing where if he's getting traded, he will be a backup, or he'll just sit on the Panthers to back him up.
Yeah, I could see him playing a backup role somewhere, and I could see him playing a kind of the bridge quarterback role somewhere with a young guy who's getting drafted this year. I mean, honestly, I could see him going to Jacksonville and starting 4 games and letting Trevor Lawrence learn a little bit. But
I can see that too.
Something tells me Trevor Lawrence is probably going to be on the field in week 1.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield type thing. Another thing I want to say is Sam Darnold was never going to be good New York. He had a coach that showed up to his opening press conference looking baked out of his mind. Like, I don't know how you don't fire
classic memes. Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill was buns under him, and look at him now. He's very above average. He's not obviously superstar, but he's really good.
Yeah.
And now he had 0 weapons. He had a 900-year-old Frank Gore as his running back for a while. Yep. Robbie Anderson, his best receiver, is got traded to the Panthers. So he's got Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. He has a lot of weapons.
It could be I've been in the camp that Darnold is he's talented. I think he's got it. I think he's got what it takes. And I mean, the Jets have been obviously an absolute disaster for the past few years, and it's not been a secret that that's happened internally. So I think it'll be interesting to see what Darnold produces. I mean, if he doesn't produce with the weapons he's got in Carolina right now, I'd say then maybe it's time to write him off. But I think it's smart of the Panthers to give him a look. I mean, I don't think Bridgewater's a bad quarterback, but I think Darnold has more potential than he does, and so I think it's an interesting trade. Last news is that the Atlanta Falcons are reportedly heavily shopping the number 4 overall pick. So this has big implications to teams looking for quarterbacks in the draft. I mean, the Falcons, Matt Ryan is declining. I think that's putting it nicely. But I guess they're not in love with any of the selections this year, or they're still not ready to let go of Matt Ryan anytime soon. So big spot for the Bears or Patriots or the Broncos to step up a few spots and pick something up. I don't know. I don't see the Bears moving up for him because the Bears just haven't shown competence in the front office recently. The Patriots have not been known to make a lot of offseason moves, but we've already talked about it that this year is a little bit different. So maybe they'll be the ones to trade up. And the Broncos are sitting in that 9 spot, so maybe they're confident they can get the guy they want there. It's interesting, but I think we'll see a lot of moving in the top spots in this draft. So a good weekend of recap, though.
Yeah, the Falcons, to me, they don't like any of the quarterbacks. They're obviously not, in my opinion, they're not going to take a receiver. They have 3 very good receivers. The only guy I could see them possibly taking would be Sewell out of Oregon, but that's probably their last interest as of now. And the only teams I can really see trading up would be the Patriots or the Broncos, but honestly, neither of those really the Broncos doesn't really make sense to me because Jacksonville's going quarterback, New York's going quarterback, Niners are going quarterback. Falcons, Niners
Are Niners going quarterback?
Yeah, they're not trading
quarterback. Yeah. Niners are going quarterback.
4 spot. If Falcons are there, who knows? Bengals, they're either taking offensive lineman, wide receiver, tight end,
or Kyle Pitts. Yeah.
Yep. Dolphins sticking with quarterback. Lions just got Jared Goff, so I doubt they're going quarterback. Panthers, they just got Sam Darnold. They ain't going quarterback. And then you go to the Broncos. Mm-hmm. So to me, if they want a quarterback, he's still going to be there.
I was going to say, I think if I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to trade up, but I could definitely see the Patriots making a splash and going up there.
That's the only one that would make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting though. I feel like there's a large majority of teams that are coming into the draft with their quarterback situation figured out based off of how many were lost as soon as the season ended. I mean, I would say that the Steelers, again, a little bit of bias there, but I think the Steelers are really in need of another quarterback to start shadowing behind Ben for the next year or two. But I don't see them making any play for the 4 spot. I think they can sit pretty at 22 and hopefully pick up Najee Harris. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the Patriots would definitely be the most likely option to take that 4 spot, but I think the Bears trading up there would be good too. I mean, they could get their hands on a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, which isn't going to be around at 20. Maybe on a stretch they can get Mac Jones at 20, but is that the guy you want? I don't know. So yeah, I think that'll wrap us up for this week. A lot of good MLB content to talk about, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And we're just 2.5-3 weeks away from the NFL draft, so we'll have a lot to say about that in the coming weeks too. So thanks for checking us out again. Stick around. Make sure to like us up, subscribe, follow everywhere, and thanks for checking us out. See you next week. Thanks for checking out the Up in the Nosebleeds podcast. Follow us on Twitter at NosebleedsPod1 and DM or email us with questions or feedback. Catch you next week.